In April 2025, a bold political clash erupted at the heart of American academia. Harvard University, one of the most prestigious and oldest institutions of higher learning in the world, found itself at the center of an escalating confrontation with the administration of President Donald Trump. The issue? A fierce debate over federal funding, free speech, ideological neutrality, and the autonomy of educational institutions. At the core of the conflict is the Trump administration's decision to freeze over $2.2 billion in federal funding earmarked for Harvard. The stated reason: Harvard's refusal to comply with a set of demands issued by federal authorities. These demands include significant changes to the university's diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, known as DEI, as well as alterations to how the institution handles student and faculty speech concerning the Israel-Palestine conflict and broader U.S. foreign policy. The administration alleges that Harvard fosters a culture of political bias, protects anti-American rhetoric, and has failed to address what it describes as institutional anti-Semitism. Furthermore, it argues that Harvard's academic environment has become inhospitable to conservative and centrist viewpoints, creating an intellectual monoculture aligned with left-leaning ideologies. In response, Harvard's leadership has taken a firm stand. President Alan Garber, speaking on behalf of the university's governing board, issued a statement defending Harvard's core values of academic freedom, open inquiry, and institutional independence. According to the university, accepting such politically driven conditions in exchange for funding would constitute a violation of its founding principles and compromise its role as a neutral and independent center of scholarship. This position has been echoed by faculty members, student organizations, and academic associations nationwide, who warn that any governmental intrusion into university operations represents a dangerous breach of democratic norms. To many within the academic community, the funding freeze is not just about money, it's about whether intellectual freedom can survive increasing political polarization. On the other hand, Trump administration officials argue that institutions receiving public money must be accountable to the public interest, especially when those institutions shape the minds of future leaders. They assert that federal funds should not support what they call indoctrination or ideological favoritism, and they frame their actions as a correction of systemic academic imbalance. The magnitude of this conflict is unprecedented. While universities have previously faced pressure related to curricula, hiring, or political activism, rarely has such a large sum of funding been weaponized in such a direct and ideological manner. And the implications are not limited to Harvard alone. Multiple reports suggest that the White House is reviewing the DEI policies of over 40 other major universities. Institutions like Yale, Stanford, and Berkeley may soon face similar scrutiny, with potential consequences ranging from reduced federal grants to the loss of research contracts. The legal dimensions of the conflict are also unfolding rapidly. Civil liberties organizations have filed lawsuits, claiming that the federal government is violating the First Amendment by imposing ideological tests on educational institutions. Meanwhile, conservative legal groups argue that taxpayers have a right to demand that federally funded universities uphold viewpoint diversity and avoid political bias. The debate over DEI has become a lightning rod for broader cultural and political tensions. Critics argue that DEI frameworks promote a rigid orthodoxy under the guise of social justice, often marginalizing dissenting views and creating bureaucracies that enforce conformity. Proponents contend that DEI initiatives are essential for correcting long-standing systemic inequalities and fostering inclusive, representative learning environments. Harvard maintains that its DEI programs are rooted in legal and ethical commitments to equality and access, and that they reflect both its mission and its responsibility to serve a diverse, global student body. Nonetheless, the threat of federal defunding raises existential questions for higher education across the United States. What does it mean to be an independent university in the 21st century? Should government funding come without conditions, or is it reasonable to expect alignment with national policy goals? Who decides what constitutes bias or balance in the academic sphere? These are not just theoretical questions. The answers will shape how universities are governed, how faculty conduct research, and how students experience education. The impact on scholarship, freedom of expression, and innovation may last for generations. Internationally, reactions have been swift. In Europe, education ministries have expressed concern over what they describe as the politicization of American higher education. In Canada, university leaders have warned that similar trends could emerge if governmental influence over academia continues to grow unchecked. Within the U.S., some state governors have declared support for Harvard and pledged to provide bridge funding if necessary. Others have praised the Trump administration's stance and promised to audit their own state universities for ideological bias. This is not merely a domestic debate. It has become a litmus test for the health of democratic institutions in a digitally interconnected, politically volatile age. How the U.S. resolves this tension between federal authority and academic independence may set a precedent not only for education but for the broader balance between state power and civil liberties. For students, educators, and policymakers alike, the moment demands clarity, courage, and vision. Will American universities remain bastions of critical thinking and free exploration? Or will they become extensions of prevailing political agendas? As the situation evolves, the world is watching. The outcome of the Harvard-Trump conflict will reverberate far beyond Cambridge, Massachusetts. It may determine how societies everywhere understand truth, power, and the purpose of education in the 21st century. If you found this analysis valuable, subscribe to AI Finance Mastermind for weekly deep dives into economics, politics, and the future of power. This content is for informational and educational purposes only. It does not constitute legal or political advice. The views presented reflect analysis, not endorsement of any party or policy.